Have you ever heard of the reputation of the richest village in China, where every family lives in a villa, drives luxury cars, and enjoys life with all kinds of free services, from water to electricity, like a heaven on earth? Have you ever imagined what a ton-heavy golden bull statue would look like? All of these things are true in a village in China, which was once considered a miracle. So why once? Because many of the richest villages in China could not escape the spiral of crisis. Some places fell into heavy debt. Some places only had a reputation while the reality had withered. And some places had even disappeared completely. Huaxi Village is located in the west of Huaxi, Jiangyin Town, in Wuxi City, Jiangsu Province, China. Once known as the richest village in China, the people here had a prosperous life for a long time. Each household owned a villa of at least 40 square meters. In the past, most of the people in Huaxi were millionaires. On the streets, it was not difficult to see private planes or private swimming pools. The village is also famous for its replicas of the Great Wall of China in Beijing, the Sydney Opera House, the White House in the US, and the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. The most prominent is the Longxi International Hotel, a 72-story building in Jiangyin, completed in late 2011. This hotel was once the 8th tallest building in China, after the Shanghai World Trade Center. On the 6th floor of the hotel, a golden bull statue weighing more than 1 ton, cast from pure gold, exudes a luxurious and splendid beauty. Huaxi Village was once a model for the path to wealth in rural China, officially established in 1961. But in the 1950s, Huaxi was still just a poor village in Jiangsu Province, where people were worried about every meal and piece of clothing. Under the leadership of Secretary Wu Renbao, the village quickly seized development opportunities through each stage, renovating the fields in the 70s, building factories in the 80s, and developing urban areas in the 90s, creating a miraculous story of farmers getting rich. Every household with a registered residence in Huaxi was granted a villa, making it one of the richest villages in China. However, since 2013, Huaxi has begun to decline after Wu Renbao passed away at the age of 85, causing the village to lose its key leader, and the pace of development is no longer as strong as before. Most of the original residents of Huaxi are farmers with low education levels. Meanwhile, Huaxi Group, the main economic pillar of the village, operates under the model of a family business. Although it is a collective economy in name, in reality, all major activities are under the control of Wu Renbao's family. Since 2016, there have been many rumors about Huaxi's bankruptcy. By the first quarter of 2016, Huaxi Group owned 208 subsidiaries operating in the fields of steel, textiles, chemicals, and trade, with total assets of 541.53 billion yuan. Regarding debt, as of March 2016, Huaxi Group's total debt had reached 38.97 billion yuan, with a debt-to-asset ratio of 68.7%. Of this, interest-bearing debt accounted for 24.57 billion yuan. By 2019, the Wuxi City State-Owned Assets Administration Commission had to intervene, indicating that Huaxi's bankruptcy was only a matter of time. On October 26, 2016, information about China's richest village facing debt risks spread widely on social media. At present, Huaxi Group is burdened with a debt of up to 4 billion yuan, while its cash reserves are only 700 million yuan, facing the risk of capital shortage and bankruptcy. Local people said that the dividend rate from Huaxi Group's shares had dropped sharply from 31% to only 0.5%. Not enough to pay dividends to shareholders as Huaxi's debt situation worsens. The year-end bonus for people has also been forced to be cut, causing anxiety in the community. Many people have had to brave the rain to sell or exchange shares, withdraw savings, but many still cannot get their money back, causing a stir in public opinion. Some opinions say that Huaxi Group's bankruptcy is inevitable because the group's real value is much lower than the numbers on the books. Thanks to preferential policies, Huaxi has received many benefits, and is only considered a model that cannot fail, but in reality, it has weakened for a long time. Today, the richest village in China has lost its former glory and become deserted. It is reported that in recent years, about 70% of the population has left Huaxi, leaving behind mainly people over 50 years old. The younger generation has gone elsewhere to make a living. The villas built for each household in Huaxi, unlike the self-built houses of the people, are only for use but not for ownership, so they cannot be traded on the market. In addition, the money earned in Huaxi can only be reused within the village, an unspoken rule that the people have been familiar with since the time of Mr. Wu Renbao. Even if they want to buy real estate outside Huaxi, they are only allowed to buy projects developed by Huaxi Group. Otherwise, they will be excluded from the dividend list. Children of the people in Huaxi Village receive free education from primary school to university and even have the opportunity to study abroad. However, the condition is that no matter how high their education level is, they are required to return to work in Huaxi. If they do not return, their families will no longer enjoy the benefits provided in Huaxi. A person familiar with Huaxi shared that there is another village, Liuzhuang in Henan, which was once considered a model of the new socialist countryside. Liuzhuang is located in Xinjiang County, Henan Province, covering an area of 1.5 square kilometers and home to more than 190 households. Today, from being the richest village in the central region, the village has become one burdened with debt. Two large enterprises in the village have been criticized for long-term unpaid wages and selling off collective assets, causing great discontent among the villagers. Many villagers have lost faith in the current collective economic model. Regarding the village's previous leader, Mr. Xi'an led Liuzhuang to develop under the collective economic model from the industrial collectivization movement to the reform and opening up period in the 1970s and 1980s. He established mechanical and flour milling factories and, in 1985 and 2007, invested in the construction of Huaxing and Luyuan pharmaceutical companies, which became the largest penicillin producer in China. By 2003, when Xi'an passed away, the total fixed assets of the entire village had reached 9 billion yuan. As a result, Liuzhuang village was once known as the richest village in central China. However, since Xi'an's son, Shishu, took over, the situation in the village began to change. Ineffective management of the enterprises caused significant difficulties for the village. By early December 2014, hundreds of unemployed workers at the Huaxing pharmaceutical factory gathered at the factory to demand their wages. Subsequently, many villagers took turns guarding the factory gate, fearing that the management might sell the company's equipment at a low price, destroying assets built by generations. In 2015, two pharmaceutical companies in Liuzhuang village were repeatedly fined for pollution and forced to shut down. This caused Liuzhuang's capital chain to fall into crisis. The village had to borrow money from banks to pay off its debts and called on villagers to contribute capital. In September 2020, the court ruled that the village's collective assets, including land, factories, and other holdings, must be used to settle the debts. According to Mr. Yang, a villager, their 2018 wages were paid by selling the village's assets. He said he was owed about 30,000 yuan in wages and is currently unemployed. The workers' wages from 2018 have not been fully paid, and in 2019, they received only 70% of their previous wages. The company had to rely on selling equipment to pay wages, and the factory was almost entirely sold, leaving only empty land. After years of operation, the company has not made a profit and has relied on loans to pay salaries. At the end of 2021, the pharmaceutical factory announced it would stop operating under the pretext of environmental protection for the Winter Olympics, but did not provide a specific timeline for resuming production. Mr. Yang said that 90% of the workers in the village depend on the two pharmaceutical companies, Huaxing and Luyuan, for their livelihoods. Currently, the entire village is almost unemployed, and many people have left their hometown to work elsewhere. Mr. Yang believes the biggest problem is poor management. For years, the village has not provided any public financial reports, and the leadership has made decisions unilaterally. No one knows the exact amount of debt the village currently has. According to information from Tianyancha, in lawsuits related to Huaxing Pharmaceutical Factory, the amount of unpaid debt is up to 534 million yuan. Lu Yuanyao also owes about 500 million yuan, and Liu Zhuang's industrial, agricultural, and commercial cooperative owes 160 million yuan. Villagers say they have not experienced shared prosperity, but only feel burdened by debt. Daqiuzhuang Village. The New York Times once described Daqiuzhuang as a super company with a population of about 40,000, but owning 16 Mercedes-Benz cars and many other luxury imported cars. However, in August 1993, Party Secretary Yu Zuomin was arrested on charges of bribery and covering up crimes and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. 6 years later, he died in prison, ending his life. On September 18, 1993, Daqiuzhuang was upgraded to a town. In the following 10 years, the village tried to restore its glory, calling for investment to restart the business. However, the people of Daqiuzhuang no longer believed in themselves and could not regain their former glory. The luxurious villas built in the 1990s are now abandoned. The buildings are dilapidated. The walls surrounding the village are crumbling and desolate. From 2003 to 2011, 2 neighboring villages were merged into Daqiuzhuang town. But in reality, Daqiuzhuang is just an ordinary village, with no trace of its past prosperity. The book Daqiuzhuang's Road to Wealth, that was a bestseller in Japan, now seems like a dream. A vivid but tragic dream. Xi'an urban area, once the pride of Xi Jinping, now resembles a ghost town. The Xi'an new area has been positioned as the cure for Beijing's rising sprawl and congestion. But now it looks like a ghost town, deserted and gloomy. With a very sparse population, the atmosphere becomes eerie when walking on the empty streets here. For Beijing's 22 million residents, the Chinese government's latest announcement may come as a literal breath of fresh air. In April 2017, the Communist Party's top leaders unveiled plans to create a new city just south of the country's capital. The Xi'an New Area, a designated special economic zone, is being hailed by state media as a model for urbanization and a potential cure for Beijing's urban sprawl. According to China's official news agency, Xinhua, the city is reflective of a new chapter for the country and will relieve the capital's rising pollution levels and car-choked traffic. A joint statement released by the country's 2 most powerful political bodies, the State Council and the Central Committee, describes the new city as a strategy crucial for a millennium to come. The proposed city will stretch across 3 counties. Early plans suggest it will be 3 times the size of New York City. According to an estimate from Morgan Stanley, investment in infrastructure and relocation may run about $290 billion, 2 trillion yuan, over the first 15 years, potentially attracting around 6.7 million people to the area. While the potential gains from a venture of this size are huge, it's also reasonable to question whether Xi'an will be a workable solution or if it will simply inherit existing problems. Many efforts to construct new cities have left behind a trail of ghost towns in China. For example, the city of Kangbashi currently houses 100,000 residents when it was meant to attract more than 500,000. In 2013, when the city of Ujiapu was being developed, it evoked images of a Manhattan-like skyline. A year later, investors started to pull out, construction came to a halt, and Ujiapu was left with a few half-finished skyscrapers. And let's see what Xi'an urban area is like now. I am now at Xi'an Station in the Xi'an New Area. Surprisingly, this station was constructed in an undeveloped area. In front of the station lies open land with weeds and patches of alfalfa. The Xi'an New Area is a prominent project endorsed by Xi Jinping, labeled a Millennium Project. It was initially envisioned to address Beijing's over-concentration of resources and development challenges, including traffic congestion, high-rise density, air pollution, and environmental decline, which have rendered the capital dysfunctional. With Beijing's prospects for improvement limited, Xi decided to move some capital functions 100 kilometers south to the Xi'an area, regarding it as a landmark project for the annals of history. As of April this year, the Xi'an new area has seen over 380 key projects, with an accumulated investment exceeding 670 billion yuan. Despite substantial government spending, many homes in the area remain unoccupied, and the streets feel deserted. In the Xi'an new area, I observed an intriguing phenomenon. Although the houses are well constructed with adequate facilities, the streets are almost devoid of pedestrians. A netizen posted a video noting how few lights are on in residential buildings at night. Further down, you'll find residential complexes. In some of these buildings, hardly any lights are on. In that community over there, only a few scattered lights are visible in the buildings. Are vehicles restricted here? Roadblocks are raised at both ends of the road. The current permanent population in the Xi'an new area is very sparse. This afternoon, I visited Rongcheng County, an older town within the Xi'an new area. Its population and foot traffic are much higher than those in the new urban area. At night, there are few cars on the streets, though I did see a Tesla parked here. Moving to another street, it's the same story. Some residential areas are dimly lit, but more people seem to be walking around in the evening. Are they coming out after work? This street is marked as the Soft Innovation District. The Xi'an new area's greenery is commendable, with plenty of green belts along the roadsides and medians. However, 80 to 90% of the shops are either closed or unleased. There's also a 24-hour smart study room here. If you have nowhere else to go at night, you might consider spending the night here. And if you go alone, you will have a creepy feeling when staying here. A netizen recently posted a video highlighting the decline in local rental prices. The true reason behind the rent drop in Xi'an New District's resettlement housing is a simple matter of supply and demand. Many Xi'an residents have been allocated multiple homes and wish to rent them out, but few people are actually seeking rental properties. Most workers live in dormitories provided by their employers, and there are few potential renters among state-owned enterprise employees or business executives. Despite CCP officials promoting Xi'an as a millennium plan, external analysts remain skeptical. They argue that Beijing authorities are defying market dynamics, forcing Beijing institutions to relocate solely through government mandate and administrative power. While there may be some progress initially, over time, the market's suppressed forces are bound to react. In the end, the Xi'an New Area project may stagnate,